Okay, so today is May 22nd. Welcome to the workgroup serving weekly benchmarking tool sync. Please add your name to the attendees list, and yeah, we can go over the agenda here. Feel free to add anything else that you want to cover as well. Yeah, so we can start with the first item here. We share our project. So one thing I created is a milestone for us to track our 0.1 release. I think we already have made a lot of progress in getting the metrics, reports, and everything set up now. So I've just identified a few more things that would be good to wrap up before we can call the tool ready for 1.0 milestone. One, I think, is the streaming request. I believe this one Brendan is working on. Container image publishing is another one. I know Chen has been looking into this before. I also got some instructions on how to get that added. And yeah, I think the report generation part is probably already done. And we also have so the lint check part, I believe, is done as well. We can resolve those. And we have the multi-process load generator one that Jason recently created an issue on, which we can go through after this. So I'm hoping to see if we could get the release out by end of next week. And wanted to check if anyone had any concerns about the scope or what we want to get out of the first release, and also if you think other issues need to be in here.
So I was thinking we could add some unit tests as part of this. It would not be too hard to add tests anyway.
Yeah.
At least the unit tests.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think unit test would be one, and probably a doc update to yeah, once we have the image and when we publish the library, how people can use it, and so on. So maybe yeah, I can create a couple of issues for those. Yeah, feel free to add the details here. Yeah, I'll probably put this cleanup item for now. Create one more for the docs as well. Okay, anything else we want to include to the milestone itself?
So I think there's a Prometheus pending issue on my name. I think if we get the multi-stage runs, Prometheus metrics, I think we can complete the Prometheus story.
Prometheus.
Multi-stage, just a second, I'll just look for it.
This one here.
Correct. Report generation, right?
Okay. Yeah, I can add this to the milestone as well. And if we have some time to do it later this week or next week, that would be good.
Yeah, I'll start working on it like tomorrow. Yeah.
That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Marcus as a feature. Cool. Yeah, anything else from anyone on what we need to add to B0.1?
Just a final confirm with you. Like it's okay for us to use Quay first for our image, right?
Yeah, I think Quay should be okay. One thing I noticed in the Kubernetes registry one is they are saying they want all sub-projects to use the default Kubernetes registry location. I can share the doc. So yeah,
We can go. Sure.
yeah. Quay right now is probably okay, but I think at some point they will enforce this. So if it is easier to do this right away, then might make sense to take that approach instead. This one here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, please take a look and yeah, let us know if makes sense to add this or if there is more requirements here and the Quay might be easier to go with for now, then we can do that for the 0.1 release and then change to this one after.
Got it.
Cool. And on this one, do you want to take the unit test one, Sachin?
Yeah, I can add some unit tests. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing. I'm thinking if we should include it in 0.1 or wait for it to add later. That one is like right now we have the Sonnet dataset for our synthetic dataset, but we could also do a random one if someone wants to test like prefix caching, for example. Because like if you are sending the same prompt, then prefix caching would mean like all of those would be cached. Yeah, so I can create an issue for it. If I have some time, I'll take it up early next week.
Do you want that piece of code in your library or because there are also other tools and load testers once we merge the FMPerf library, we will able to launch those jobs as well.
Yeah, I think some basic one we could add on our side. And then like, yeah, once we add the extension, we could do more things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and also I'm wondering like what our timeline looks to add the other load gen. So maybe we could do add something here for now and then extend it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, those new like other load gen, for example, the benchmark and guide are merged to the FMPerf upstream already. So we are merging the first PR of FMPerf, and then we will add, for example, the stack spec and more types of workload spec later soon in the next PR.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I was
Cool.
curious to know about the fmperf merge. So, I mean, fmperf itself is like a semi-stable library right now, lots of features there. And this one also has developed in its own way some of the features. So I'm trying to understand how they would merge. It won't be a direct PR, right? It would, yeah. What would be the thought process to bringing those features here?
Yeah.
So actually, fmperf is very simple. It's just 5 different Python classes like cluster, like model spec, workload spec, and stack spec. So those are the core together with some utilities. So the initial PR, right? We already start merging the model spec, cluster spec, and workload spec, and some utilities to make sure it's functioning. So I actually want to discuss with you, like we need to change the name, right? So we need to use some other name for the library. And then we need to clean up some code that you already have and reuse part of yours. So those are the 2 questions I have. And then
Yeah.
asking
Yeah.
for your
Probably.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably we can discuss this and then after that move on to Jason's topic. Hopefully we'll have 10 more minutes. Yeah. So this one, I think, yeah, those are the 2 main things I wanted to call out here as well. One, yeah, since we are calling the actual benchmarking library inference perf, this is essentially our deploying the workload plus deploying the benchmarking against it itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can, yeah, call it something.
We call it deployer.
Yeah, deployer.
Okay.
Library or something like that makes sense.
Yep.
Anyone else has any suggestions there? Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can call it deployer, and the specs for cluster modular workload deployment makes sense. I think mainly the benchmarking part, if we can drive it with the inference perf library we have.
Mm-hmm. For example, it's inference. So I need to reuse your API for calling the benchmarking, right?
Yeah, so this has its config here with its own YAML, right? So we want to like use this and kick off the benchmarking run, yeah, with this library. I think that would be a good way to integrate. Maybe one other idea there is like we could, yeah, initially add just the deployment pieces in, and then in a separate change we could include how this can call the inference perf library.
Okay. Okay.
If that works.
So yeah, that definitely works. It's just if we just put deployer libraries now, is probably not working functionally. So yeah, then I will take a look at your inference perf library first and see how the utilities can be merged in inference perf in a separate PR.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So yeah, essentially we could add the deployment parts, and then for benchmark driving, we could call into inference perf. Then we could extend the deployment part for other things like deploying LLMT or production stack and whatnot.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, cool.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, yeah, I will start with that and go ahead. So the topic that Jason had is the scaling our load gen. Jason, do you want to talk about your proposal?
Yeah. So from a high level, right now, all of the client requests are run in a single process via async IO tasks. And what we found through a couple of other tools and in general observations is that as the request load starts increasing, and even representative at low load, you start seeing async IO fail to actually keep up with the intended schedule times of these requests. So essentially, you end up with less actual queries per second versus the intended queries per second. And then you can actually see increased latency added to the resulting metrics of the benchmark due to that delta. So this proposal shows a way to do it with multi-process. I think the intention here is that we change the current load generator to support multi-process, which adds in these workers that actuate the request through the client. And then the one larger refactor due to the current architecture of inference perf is that the client will, instead of pushing its response data directly to the report generator, it needs to return it to the load generator, which will collect it and then publish it to the report generator. And that allows it to actually be multi-process safe.
Yeah, thanks for adding the details there, Jason. Yeah, I do think like, especially with testing bigger deployments, we might have to send a lot more QPS. So having the ability to scale to a higher load, plus accurately send the requested QPS, I think would be important, which I think with the current async IO single process implementation, there are known limitations, right? Yeah, so overall, this makes sense to me. Anyone else has any concerns on extending it? Also, do you have preference for how, what would be a good way to extend this? Right, do we create a separate load gen, which is multiprocessor, and other option is eventually we can migrate to that one. Now we create it separately, but then eventually we migrate to that one, and by default you would be able to do higher load and higher QPS.
Ashok, I'm not very familiar with the existing code base yet, but are you planning to run this as a container or job on Kubernetes to send requests to an endpoint? Or
Yeah.
are you okay?
So currently you can run it as a client-side tool if you need to, but ideally for larger tests, people would want to run it inside a cluster as a job. Yeah.
Okay. And so the YAML you just showed me is taken by this one, right?
Yeah. So our config YAML goes as an input, right? You look at the README. If you just are running locally, you would say inference perf and use this config YAML, and it would run. If you're running it in Kubernetes as a job, you would essentially create a config map with the configuration and run it. Right now, it doesn't have. You still need to like look at the logs and pull the files out for the report. This is where I think like using persistent volumes, pushing to like cloud storage, those sort of things will help. But yeah, currently it's a little basic, and that's how you can run this.
I mean, this way is exactly as how we wrap, how the FMPRF deployer is wrapping all other load testers. So this is exactly the same. And then that's why I said like we don't need to have a exactly the same format of the YAML because different load testers may take different YAMLs, and then fmperf deployer will wrap it as corresponding config map or job. And do you have a job template as well? So I think if we can know the way you deploy it now, and then after I merge the deployer, I can expand the deployer's library with, for example, the derived class of the workload spec to support it directly. So it runs as a job.
Yeah, I think that would be good to do. Once we add the deployer, yeah, having a way to wrap this config and how we deploy this, I think that would be a good first step, right? And then we can also pull in some of the other things that you already support today. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so then back to the benchmarking library case, right? So our benchmarking function is really not the benchmarking interface or API you are referring to. Our benchmarking interface is just the way to deploy a job.
Our benchmarking interface, yeah, so that I think we need to discuss a little bit more, right? Right now, like this config we have is our current API on what we want to benchmark and such. One option to do is we kind of have the central API or central config, and then if we want to extend to other load generators, then you could extend it here, right? You can say, hey, use a specific load generator and then provide a path to that one. It might be good to have, like, for example, the fmperf deployer take this config as like the main API, and then if you don't want to use the default load gen that comes with inference perf, then you could say use this load gen and use this config YAML instead as one of the options that you could pass in.
Got it. Yeah. So so let me explain a little bit about our current setup. So our current setup actually separate the load gens YAML from the inference stack YAML. So for example, the server part is for a particular inference stack with the endpoint, right? And with the model name. And the load tester part has also needs some field like what image it is using, and then corresponding arguments for that load gens. So because different load gen are taking different parameters, so probably under the load part, we will have different schema. And similarly under server, so because we have multiple types of stacks, right? So it could be it could be something else, Dynamo or AI bricks, and the parameters to bring up those stacks may vary. That's why, so can we just separate those two? Because when you have a single server deployment, those fields are enough. But if you have a distributed stack, those fields might not be enough, and it will grow exponentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I think separating the inference stack from the load gen or the benchmarking library config itself makes sense. But one thing I'd like to do is like, yeah, we could have like two different YAMLs, one for the load gen plus the benchmarking config, and the other for the deployment config itself, right? On the benchmarking / load gen config, what I was thinking is having some sort of API which kind of says, okay, this is the setup that we are benchmarking against. And then within that, we could have pluggable load gen config for different ones, right? So the higher level API is something then we could standardize with what we are defining here at inference perf level. And then eventually we can also have other load generators support the different options here outside of what they support today too. Right?
Makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of standardize on this. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. We do need the standardized APIs. But we can, the standards APIs can allow the customized load gens to load their own argument from another YAML, for example. That's completely fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So going back to this one for the multiprocess one, is the main change, Jason, mainly like how the load gen today is interacting with the metrics collection part?
Yeah, so two big changes. One is the actual logic inside of load generator that would need to change to spawn multiple processes and then create these workers and collect results. The other one is a refactor to client. So right now, client publishes directly to the report generator to record the metrics. I think it makes more sense for, I mean, in general and specifically for multi-process, to have the client instead just return the response data back from its process request call, and then the load generator is responsible for collecting those results across the processes and sending them to the report gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just on the data collection part, right, there can be multiple ways we do this. I think this one is more of a natural progression from our project. So the load gen itself, let's say, could crash at high load. The client itself would crash. And then the collection mechanism, there could be some issues with the collection mechanism, right? The alternative is to send it somewhere outside. And that could be, your report gen component.
May I ask if the collect mechanism right now is pulling metrics from Prometheus directly?
So we have both, right? So this specifically is not Prometheus metrics. These are the client itself collecting the, processing the output, looking at the tokens, and collecting those metrics. I think for that one, I think this proposal makes a lot of sense, right? That's the right progression. And the client itself could also push to external metric source like Prometheus or whatnot. So both are possible.
Yeah. Today we report both, right? The main one is the metrics driven by the benchmarking client, which reports like latency, throughput, and all that. But we also, if Prometheus is enabled, pull metrics from the model server as like additional data that you could look at, right? And we present them as separate reports. In this case, the main problem is like right now, LoadGen sends request by calling the client, and then client ends up writing to the report. But if LoadGen is now multi-process, has multiple processes, now how do you make sure the actual data is collected back at the LoadGen so can be written back to the report, right? So we just need to refactor that logic out of client to basically client should handle just the request, but then LoadGen would collect the actual benchmarking data and send it to report gen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we may need to reorganize some of our abstractions to make this possible. So yeah, maybe we can work on that next.
Yeah, and Jason, if you want to, first do the refactor to move the logic from client to LoadGen, and then you could add the multiprocessor LoadGen. And for now, it could be a separate LoadGen, so we could keep the existing one too. That makes sense.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll go with that. And Chen, on the container image, would you have some time to take that up?
Yes.
Later
Please
this week?
assign it. Yeah. Assign
Okay.
it to me. Yeah. Just
Cool.
So our backup choice is cool if I can't make it.
Yeah.
If we can't get the upstream report by next Monday.
Yep.
You also want the container building in the CI/CD, right? In the GitHub Actions.
Yeah, it would be good to add that to GitHub Actions. So I merged your other change to add the release workflow, right? So this one is now added. If we could add, yeah, an action for building the container image and pushing it, that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah, the steps are basically here, so you could,
Yeah, no
just
problem.
build the image to push. Yeah,
Sure.
cool. I think we're mostly at time. On benchmarking talks, Chen, do you wanna talk
Yeah.
about the?
I just want to share the abstract link here. So if Arshak, please take a look and review, make necessary changes. And Jason, I see Jason already put his session as link. So if no problem, I will try to submit over the weekend.
Okay, sounds good. So this is the tutorial for GenA benchmarking.
Is this a session presentation, or is it going to be in different format? I'm asking because I also had a similar proposal.
So this one is the tutorial, which is 45 minutes, right? And it has 5 people there.
Oh, nice.
And then there is a inference per breakout session. Feel free to add your one here as well, Sachin.
Okay.
Yeah, these will be 2 different ones. And for the tutorial, is it, I would assume it's going to be more hands-on, Chen, where we would show the tool and how we could benchmark with different options.
Yeah, actually in the abstract, I highlighted 5 different scenarios, right? So like routing, I didn't mention auto scaling yet. So if you want to add auto scaling, please add it. So my plan is to demonstrate different tools, right? 5 of us will demonstrate the different optimization scenario.
Okay.
Yeah. And I haven't added auto scaling, but if you have something nice to demonstrate all the effectiveness of auto scaling, that would be perfect.
Yeah. Auto scaling, I think we should be able to do something. My previous KubeCon one was related to that. Jason, maybe you can look at extending that to see what's the latest we could show with auto scaling.
Okay, then I will add like auto scaling among those, right? So I think routing we are able to demonstrate it. This one is really default VLM. So if nobody is interested in this, we can remove this. And PD disaggregation and KV cache offloading, I think NVIDIA and ARM cache folks will take over of those. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I think overall plan looks good to me. And yeah. The session should be pretty useful for people getting started on benchmarking. Sounds good. We are over, but if you want to quickly talk about the improved abstractions, Sachin, if you want to call out anything top of mind.
Yeah, this is again just simplifying some of our abstractions and aligning it with what we initially had with the inference proposal. Yeah, nothing major. I just renaming a few things and changing some directory structures. That's all.
Okay, should we get this in before Jason makes the load gen?
Yeah, I think that'll be useful.
Change?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I took a quick look, but yeah, I'll take a look after this. All right, I think that's all the topics for today. Any last thoughts from anyone? Okay, the KubeCon submission deadline is next Tuesday, I believe. So yeah, make sure all of your profiles are created. We send out the submissions on time. And yeah, let's see if we can make progress this week to have most of the stuff in our milestone ready by next Thursday, and then we can cut a release hopefully end of. All right, thanks everyone.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.